Welcome into the Fantasy Football Forge. My name is Steve. Congratulations on making it this far into your season. As a reminder, I will be here week 18 for any of your start sit needs as well as of course my rankings videos. I won't have a waiver wire video next week, but I'll try to get those rankings starting to get out to you ASAP. Let's see. I'll be live tonight, 2 hours prior to kickoff. Saturday, 2 hours prior to kickoff. Evening game, night game, and then Sunday, 2 hours prior to kickoff in the morning before the main slate of games. Good luck this weekend, of course. Once again, thank you very much for a successful season. I appreciate y'all. If you're not aware, in the off season, I'll do a little bit of some sort of recap stuff from this, this past season. I don't know exactly what I'll do yet for that, but soon enough, I will start to change course looking at the real NFL draft. So if that is something that you don't care about at all, I would appreciate it, of course, if you stayed subbed. But if you keep your notifications on, then just, turn those off, and then you can always turn them back on come July or whenever you're ready to come back to fantasy football. And I can assure you I will most likely already be on the topic. So that's, I think, everything covered. Likes, of course, are appreciated. And also, apologies on my order. I uploaded the wrong video for yesterday morning's video, the quarterback and tight end video, and it was the waiver wire video from Tuesday, and I was not aware of that until some point in the afternoon. So that came out mid-afternoon, and then, of course, a nighttime video. I don't like to overload your feeds with videos, so I do apologize that you had a couple in such short order, but, I got to get them all cranked out eventually here prior to the games getting started. So there we go. I think, without further ado, let's just recap how I did with my DFS buys last week. I will actually do a DFS lineup for you that's in part inspired by a couple of my suggestions that I have for you for the running backs this week. So I don't have any running back notes. Once again, I'm going to be pretty quick through that. But when we recap how I did in week 16 for my DFS suggestions, I gave you paying up for Jahmyr Gibbs at $7,000 I thought was going to be worth it, and I would say it probably was because he finished as the running back 3 on DK, and Breece Hall at $6,100 I said was a good price. A little bit unsure of it, but I thought definitely at $6,100 he would be worth a shot, and he finished as the running back 1, as I'm sure you're aware. So started off real hot there. Then for the big tournament long shot / contrarian play, I gave you Austin Eckler. Thought he'd be, somebody a lot of people wouldn't be trusting. And I still think it was worth a shot, but unfortunately he still finished as running back 24, so that's not quite what we were looking for. And for my fades last week, I gave you Aaron Jones and Javonte Williams. Aaron Jones, of course, finished as running back 16 on the week, so I would say that he did not finish as well as I'd hoped. I do think that experts might have had him ranked a little bit higher, so I think he finished somewhere between where myself and experts had him, so maybe in some instances that fade might have worked compared to other rankings. And then for Javonte Williams, finished as the running back 25. That's probably around where I had him ranked, so that was sufficient enough. I think we'll call that in. We'll say I didn't do excellent with the fades, not terrible. With my loves, essentially I did pretty bad. Devon Achane was my love of the week. This was one I was willing to live with. I hope I made it clear enough with my rankings when I talked about Achane last week that, I was willing to take a shot on it. I hadn't seen enough bad from him compared to the good that we got, and I was going for a victory. Unfortunately, he failed big time, not even just like, he was finished as running back 24. He finished as running back 50, so that was bad. Austin Eckler finished as running back 23 on the week, so not as good as, once again, that I had hoped for Austin Eckler last week, given the matchup and everything. So now let's get on to the Week 17 running back rankings. And we're going to start off with a nice, comfortable little tier of 7. The must starts this week. It starts with Christian McCaffrey as my running back 1. By the way, to the left of the rankings, so the rankings are, where they always are, just to the left of the players and my matchup gauge there, matchup gauge rankings here. Here, EV. This is my EV equalized value system. It's like average fantasy points per week. However, It's A's are statted. I do go through, and if a guy gets injured early on in a game or something, I'm not going to count that game against them because I'm looking to see when they're coming into a game healthy, and if they were to play that whole game, what am I going to get from them? So a little bit A's are statted, as well as if running backs are out or something, they're not in that count. So this isn't like a season-long thing. This is for this week. Out of the players that I have ranked, were they the EV running back 4, 8, etc. But yeah, it's like average fantasy points per week. However, it takes consistency into account, as well as the manipulation that I do with the stats keeping. So there we go. I've got that covered. Projections, of course, on the screen there. You can see below average to above average. That's an expected range, as it says up above the rankings. And to continue, after Christian McCaffrey at running back 1, we've got Kyren Williams. These are the two absolute studs. They could be in a tier of their own this week. And then we've got Rachaad White, Jahmyr Gibbs, Alvin Kamara, Travis Etienne Jr., and James Cook to finish off the tier. Travis Etienne, James Cook making it in here because of, Travis Etienne, the matchup going up against Carolina. You got to start him. I know. You just have to. And then James Cook, you also have to start him. I know last week wasn't fantastic, but the 3-4 weeks prior to that with this new regime in there, it's been really, really good. I couldn't imagine sitting that this week in an okay matchup against New England. Now let's get on to this second tier. I assume you're not going to have any qualms with Rachaad White, Jahmyr Gibbs, Alvin Kamara. Don't get cute. Start your guys, right? Second tier. Going to be the biggest tier of all year. We're going to finish with a bang. And what you know about me with these tiers, when they're big, that means uncertainty. Yeah. You could take my running back 8 this week all the way down to the running back 27 this week, jumble them up any which order. I'm going to look through it. I could make arguments for and against all of these guys to be higher or lower than I currently have them ranked, and I'm going to look at whatever order you end up with them in, and I'm going to say, yeah, I get it. I might not agree with every aspect of it, but I'll understand it. There's a lot of parity at the running back position. You can even see it with these projections. I mean, just look at this, even going up into this area. But a lot of similarities here when you're just looking at the projections for them. Not a whole lot of differences going on outside of a few guys here and there. So it's tough to split in hairs between guys at this point. My running back 8 this week is Josh Jacobs. I'll just go through the order here first, then we'll just look at a couple of factors for them. Josh Jacobs is my running back 8, followed by Jonathan Taylor, DeAndre Swift at 10, Bijan Robinson, going to be a love of mine this week at running back 11, followed by Joe Mixon at 12, Raheem Mostert, just slipping in here as high as I could get him. But, of course, very touchdown reliant. That's the concern. So this is kind of where I had my cutoff before we start to get into some guys who we do have some worries about, like Saquon Barkley. Going up against the Los Angeles Rams, really, really tough matchup. Currently, after 14 games, so I don't know yet. Actually, I do know. Give me one moment. Okay, so it did not hold true after last week. They are now the second worst matchup for running backs in half PPR. They were the first worst coming into last week. Then Ken Walker here at running back 15, David Montgomery 16, followed by Ty Chandler, Derrick Henry at 18, Austin Eckler, Breece Hall 20, Ezekiel Elliott, Tony Pollard at 22, James Conner, Clyde Edwards-Helaire at 24, Chuba Hubbard, Devon Achane, and Aaron Jones to wrap this tier up at running back 27. So let's go back up. We got Josh Jacobs going up against Indianapolis. Fantastic matchup for him if he comes back. If he starts practicing early on in the week, it's going to depend a little bit on the confidence of his health coming into this game. Of course, if we're concerned about him not getting the full workload, then that's going to be a different story. He might not even play this week. I feel like he was very close to playing last week, and maybe the illness set him back, and then I feel like his health is right there. So I think he's going to come back, and it's a tough matchup to sit him in, that's for sure. If you disagree with where I have him ranked, that'd be understandable. Then Jonathan Taylor going up against the the Raiders, fine matchup, not great. DeAndre Swift, absolutely a great matchup. By the way, Jonathan Taylor, EV running back 12 on the season when he's been, healthy and going. So he's been great. Then, and that's going to include like 2 games where he was only being partially used. So he's been really fantastic overall when he's gotten the opportunities here this season. DeAndre Swift going up against Arizona. It's a fantastic running back matchup. Still, a little bit tough to trust DeAndre Swift, but also I think you kind of got to trust him this week. When there's so much parity at the running back position, I'll take that great matchup and hope for the best. Bijan Robinson going up against Atlanta, going up against Chicago, and I think that this matchup works really well for him specifically. It is a good matchup. Didn't quite make the list there where I'm highlighting over to the way right, the green and the red for good or bad matchups. Those are for like the top 5, bottom 5 matchups. But Chicago not too far off from being a very good matchup. The best thing about it though is Chicago does allow teams target running backs against Chicago quite a bit. And obviously that is where Bijan Robinson can shine. So I really do like the matchup for him, and that is what pushed him up. I had him lower initially in my rankings by a fair bit, probably around like 15 where the EV is. But then I pushed him up over some of these guys because of liking that factor of the matchup, and he became a love for me. The loves I'm confident with as far as I like them. The fades for me were a little bit tougher to come up with this week because I felt like a lot of them could have been the Saquon Barkleys, any number of these guys really this week could have been fades because, we have concerns about them. Breece Hall, Austin Eckler, I mean, heck, Ezekiel Elliott if you wanted to, James Conner. You could fade any of these guys because there are concerns about a lot of them, including Joe Mixon going up against Kansas City. That's not a good matchup for him. Then Raheem Mostert, like I said, a touchdown reliant. Saquon Barkley, really, really tough matchup. Mentioned that, I believe, already. Ken Walker, look at the projection upside there. He's like the lowest out of all of them here. But why is that exactly? I assume because he's touchdown reliant and maybe Pittsburgh doesn't allow a lot of touchdowns to running backs. That's my best guess as far as the upper end there. But I do feel comfortable that he should be, like Pittsburgh has allowed some running backs to do quite well this year. So I'm not overly concerned about the matchup for Ken Walker. Just a little bit concerned where that projection's going on the upper side there, and I agree with it. I'm not too excited about the upper end of his possibilities. Same with David Montgomery, pretty much touchdown reliant to a factor, but Detroit really good at getting in situations where he can get a touchdown. He's gotten plenty this season, as you can see. EV running back 3 on the season, so that's great. Ty Chandler going up against Green Bay, pretty not great run defense. So I would feel comfortable putting Ty Chandler out this week. You can see the projections are really good. They are manipulated a little bit, so maybe they're jacked up a little too high there. But still feel comfortable with Ty Chandler. Don't love him, but I do feel good about it. Derrick Henry, I don't necessarily ever feel great about it this season. You can see touchdown reliance. If they stuff him a fair bit, things don't go well. Sometimes also if they get behind in a game, especially if C.J. Stroud's going to be on the other side. Heck, if C.J. Stroud's on the other end, I might have to lower this a little bit. We're really going to get concerned about Tyjae Spears getting more use than Derrick Henry. That happens sometimes on the season. Then Austin Eckler here going up against Denver. It's a really good matchup. He had a good matchup last week that, he was a love for me last week. He didn't really take advantage of it. In fact, if I recall, might have gotten a little bit lucky with his fantasy output at the end of the day. So I'm not overly excited about Austin Eckler as much as, I should be given this matchup. And look at the projections, too. They're great. I didn't manipulate those at all, but he still projects well. Breece Hall, Ezekiel Elliott, the matchup, just hating these two, going up against Cleveland, going up against Buffalo. Doesn't think they're in great situations. I would argue Ezekiel Elliott, pretty decent situation. Buffalo hasn't been great against the run, and, the targets should come his way yet again, especially if they're behind in this game, which we would think that they will be. Breece Hall, really tough matchup a tougher matchup against Cleveland, and we've seen him on the season, EV running back 24, but coming off of a huge game, it'd be tough to sit him, tough to sit any of these guys. And once again, the order here, I'm talking myself into wanting to put these guys up higher, as I speak, and I'm sure there will be some shuffling around throughout the week. Tony Pollard's a fade for me going up against Detroit. Really good rushing defense. Same with James Conner. These two back-to-back. James Conner has been better as of late than Tony Pollard. James Conner on the season, in fact, running back 13. Tony Pollard on the season, running back 23 via the EV system. So, James Conner has been quite consistent, good. I wanted to put him up against higher than Tony Pollard, but I listened to this matchup gauge here. Yeah, factor at the end of the day, which team do I think has a better chance of getting these guys into touchdown territory and potentially getting a touchdown? It's going to be Tony Pollard here against Detroit. That game could turn into a lot going on, whereas James Conner, Arizona, not expecting them to put up a whole lot of points against Philly despite the matchup. We'll see. Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He's coming into a great situation, probably. Isaiah Pacheco most likely out with his concussion. I wanted to put him up higher, but I just couldn't because on one hand, the running backs suck this week. On the other hand, they're absolutely great this week. That's the parity of the running back this week. And so you can see my projections do love him. Once again, this is a manipulated projection. Maybe I jacked it up a little bit too high, but I have a system that I do it, and I don't like to stray from that too much. And so, yeah, Cincinnati's been pretty bad against the run. No DJ Reader as of late. Compared to on the season, they've been worse than they were on the season. And so I love CH to have a great game. I already said it. Isaiah Pacheco probably out. Also, the other guy, Jerick McKinnon, is on IR. So, what's the competition here for him? I'd expect him to get a lot of the work, and that's part of why this projection ended up going so high for him. Chuba Hubbard going up against Jacksonville, they're a fine matchup. Nothing that I'm overly concerned about. It just comes down to the upside for Chuba. I like the floor a lot, though. Devon Achane, opposite end of the spectrum, don't like the floor a whole lot. Although it's not his usage is still basically where it's been all season long as of late. It really hasn't been less usage. He just hasn't been as efficient with that usage as he was earlier on in the season. It's a really tough matchup against Baltimore, so it's tough to say, this would probably be a week where he's going to have a comeback. But the opportunities are still going to be there a decent amount, so I'm still willing to take a chance on him. Just not going to be so bold about it as I was last week. And Aaron Jones, another fade for me. Really tough matchup against Minnesota. The silver lining here, teams do target the running back a decent amount, like average to plus, above average. So maybe that could work in Aaron Jones' favor this week, especially if there's short weapons. I didn't really think about that. If they're short, all of those receiver weapons, probably push Aaron Jones up a little bit further than this. But as you can see on the season, it hasn't been too great when he's been healthy and going. So let's finish this up. The final tier here, I do have more running backs ranked. You can see the entirety of the rankings up on the website, www.theffforge.com. But I'm not going to talk about these guys, but this is the next tier. These are still startable options. Devin Singletary in at running back 28, followed by Brian Robinson. I am ranking him currently, so we'll see if things change there for him. But he did start the week off limited, so it's looking, better than not for him to play. But going against San Francisco, really bad matchup. At the same time, he has been the running back 19 on the season, in this list of guys that we've got going. So I'm kind of torn on how to rank him compared to this next group of guys. I know I want to keep him ahead of Javonte Williams, who is going a pretty decent matchup against the Los Angeles Chargers there. So maybe not even there. He could be, 6 spots back here, and I wouldn't argue against it. But Jerome Ford, Najee Harris, Jaylen Warren. Najee Harris I like over Jaylen Warren this week because when I went and I looked into it, I was wondering why. Well, I could have sworn that this was actually higher than Jaylen Warren's ceiling here. But at the end of the day, Seattle allows a fair amount, an average of 1 rushing touchdown a game to running backs. So looked at it, and Najee Harris has, over double the amount of red zone touches than Jaylen Warren, red zone touches. And then he also has 4 times the amount of goal line touches than Jaylen Warren. So who's more likely to take advantage of that stat? I believe it would be Najee Harris, but no problem with Jaylen Warren yet again this week. Just kind of liking the matchup a little bit more in favor of Najee this week. Gus Edwards, what the concerns are for him. Miami's been pretty good against the run as well. It's not a great matchup. You can see the projections are really not great for him. Javonte Williams, to wrap this tier up once again, I just don't trust him, but it's a decent matchup this week. So he definitely earned being into this tier. And Isaiah Pacheco is not being ranked, the only running back of note that I am not currently ranking this week. Now, on to the running back suggestions for DFS. We've got paying up for Christian McCaffrey at $9,600, of course, the most expensive running back, and Kyren Williams at $8,300. And I'll show you how this can be done, because I decided to go through and do a lineup. I'm sorry, I should have showed this on screen. I still can't. So while I do that, or before I do that, good price, guys. I'm going to give you 3 here at $5,300 for CEH. I think that's going to be a steal of a deal. Bijan Robinson at $6,600 and DeAndre Swift at $6,500. Got them back to back in my rankings, fairly high. Like them both a fair bit because of the matchup. So and the pricing seems pretty good on them. So now let's just look at this matchup, this lineup that I made. We'll call it my DFS lineup of the week. I'm going to refilm the ending here. I promised a quick video. It didn't end up being as quick, so all promises failed. This is my lineup of the week. Ended up, spending up for Christian McCaffrey, Kyren Williams, like I said, then saved here at the quarterback, the tight end, the DST, and this is what I was able to fill it up with. Saved a bunch of money here with Curtis Samuel, Michael Wilson, spent up a little bit with Chris Olave to match that up with Derek Carr, and then was able to get Zay Flowers after saving all that money at these other spots. So there you go. That is the lineup. Hoping for Ravens, hoping for Mostert to fumble the ball once or twice. The Ravens to scoop it up, go in for 6 is, I think, the main strategy here because they were very cheap. Going up against Miami, obviously. All right, there we go. That is it. Peace out. Thank you very much for everything. Good luck. This is probably the last video for many of you for this season, so I hope that everything works out for you in fantasy. Peace out.